dois, três.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Darrin Kerr from FK Partners. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about the CFA program. We're going to talk about, in general, the program, more specifically about the level 1 exam and what you need to be able to do to be properly prepared for that exam. We'll talk also about how at FK Partners we help students prepare for all three of these exams. And we'll also reserve some time for you all to be able to ask your questions so that you can better understand if the CFA program is right for you. We prepared a little presentation for you all tonight, and I'm going to share my screen with you so that we can walk through it. Please feel free to send through your questions in the chat. We can do some Q&A as we go. So if you have questions that come up as we walk our way through the presentation, feel free to just ask, as they arise. If you don't think of anything until the end, we'll reserve plenty of time at the end as well to do some Q&A at that time. So without any more introduction, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen with you all. And to get started here, again, focus tonight on CFA, but we want to do a little brief introduction into FK Partners. So FK Partners began back in 2004, so 16 years ago. And the first course that we ever gave was a CFA Level 1 prep course. At that time, the company we had 7 students, and 5 actually were able to pass that year. So from there, we expanded into offering preparation for both levels 2 and 3, so that we could help students prepare across all 3 levels of the CFA program. And then we got into doing other types of courses, principally other certification prep, both other international certifications and local ones. And then we got into doing financial training or courses in finance, and even helping students that want to go and study abroad in master's, MBA programs, or even undergrad programs outside of Brazil. So let me go ahead and just walk you through a little presentation that we had prepared tonight. But one more time, if you do have questions that come up as we move through this slide presentation, please feel free to put them into the chat, and we'll go ahead and take those questions and hopefully try to respond to you all as we work our way through this. So again, focus tonight is on the program. I really want you to try to get a better grasp at the end of our little discussion tonight of if the CFA program is right for you. So we're going to talk specifically about we'll talk about the program in general, but more specifically about level 1, what's on there, what you need to be able to do to prepare properly for it, what type of sacrifice you need to make to be able to ultimately have success on the exam. And we'll even talk, like I said, about how we as a company here at FK Partners can help you prepare. So as I mentioned, the company began back in 2004. When we began, we, as I said, started with the CFA prep course. We also began with a partnership with Kaplan Schweizer. Kaplan Schweizer is the premier material preparation provider for these advanced designations or international certifications in finance, principally the CFA certification. But beyond the CFA certification, Kaplan Schweizer will also provide us material and help us with our preparation for the FRM, the Financial Risk Manager exam series, and the KAIA exams, which are for alternative investment analysts. So those are a couple other courses that we offer. We actually started the KAIA course for the level 1 candidates back on, I guess it was Monday of this week, and they're going to be preparing for a test in September of this year. FRM, we're going to start a course in August, in about 6 weeks from now for part 1 of the FRM, and these candidates will take their test in November. But for CFA, we have a prep course that's going to be beginning in this month, end of July, on July 30th for the level 1. That test is going to be offered on the first Saturday of December. And then from there, like I said, going to be preparing students for the other levels. I'll talk about what kind of happened with this year. It's a bit unique with postponements of exams as well, but we'll get into all that a little bit later. see a question in there from Kyle. I'm going to get to that in a moment, Kyle. Just a moment, Kyle. Let me get through the introduction here. I see some questions coming in, but I'll get there. So as I mentioned, FK, beyond preparation for CFA and other international certifications like FRM and Kaya, also prepares candidates here in Brazil for basically all of the local certification exams. So CFP for certified financial planners, CGA, the NBIMA certification for portfolio managers, SEA, CNPI, PKO, CPI Day, CPI Bench, the whole menu here of the local certifications. But in addition, we do training courses in finance, financial modeling, valuation, financial statement analysis, corporate credit analysis, derivatives training for people that work in investor relations, mergers and acquisition course. We have a lot of different types of courses that we offer that are not related to passing a certification exam. They're there for people to learn and grow as professionals. Sometimes students do those courses in an open course format. Other times they're done at companies, and in that circumstance, we can do a bit of customization for those courses. And as I mentioned, we also have an area in the company where we help students that want to go abroad, focus really on undergrads that want to study in US universities, helping with the admissions exams such as the SAT exam. Just to get a couple of these questions out of the way, we have some questions in there about the CFA sequence of exams. Kaya was asking about levels 2 and 3 and how students sometimes can get stuck in the upper levels. The CFA program, for those that are unfamiliar, is a program that requires you to pass 3 exams in sequence. So level 1 is the starting point. If you pass that one, you move on to level 2 and then on to level 3. Level 1 is kind of the basic building blocks exam. Not easy, but it's an exam that you gotta get exposure to a lot of different topics. We're going to cover what those are in our presentation tonight. Level 2, we go deeper into those same topics. It's really a pretty detailed analytical exam for financial analysts. Level 3 focuses more on portfolio management topics. So their levels 2 and 3 are significantly more difficult than level 1. But again, the people that are doing it are already pretty good students because they did pass level 1. They're disciplined. They did what they needed to do to stay focused and study properly for that first exam. So if you continue to work hard and you stick to a proper study plan, you do have a good chance, I think, to be able to pass all of these exams and become a CFA charter holder. There's another question in there from Kyle about the computer-based test. For those that are unfamiliar, all the exams for the CFA curriculum are paper-based as of now. This is, though, the final year for level 1 to be administered as a paper-based exam. Starting in 2021, the level 1 exam will move towards a computer-based test. So our course, it's still covering the same content, and our course will still cover all of those topics and basically have the same number of hours and basically the same focus, but we're going to focus on as we do mock exams, the format of the actual new test in 2021, which will be computer-based. So we'll get into a little bit more about those details later. And we're getting a lot of questions from Kyle here, but he has the CFP, CGA, and he wants to work in asset management or private banking. CFA covers both, really. When you mentioned in the earlier question about levels 2 and 3, level 2 focuses more on what an asset manager, an analyst at an asset management firm would really need to know. Level 3 focuses more on what a portfolio manager would need to know. So they kind of cover CFA, the whole curriculum across the 3 levels does cover both of those types of professions. So as we're going to see, research analysts, buy-side analysts, and portfolio managers, these are the main professions that would seek out the CFA certification. So I think if you do already have the CFP and the CGA exam, CFA would be the logical next step. All right, so now a little bit about why people do the CFA program. You have really a couple main reasons. One would be you're going to learn a lot. I can give you a little bit of my own background. I used to work in equity research before I moved to Brazil. I'm actually based here in São Paulo, but before I moved here, I used to work in equity research, first at Morgan Stanley and then later at Merrill Lynch, both in New York. Transferred to São Paulo with Merrill Lynch. This is a number of years ago now. But when I was doing the exams, when still living in New York, I remembered a lot of colleagues of mine also doing them. I was a research analyst, equity research to be specific, had also majored in accounting in university. And when I started studying for level 1, there's a lot of accounting. They call that topic financial reporting and analysis on the level 1 exam. But I had familiarity with it because I had studied a lot of that material in school. I also had some familiarity with equity valuation because I was working with it. But then when I actually got into the curriculum, I was now exposed to fixed income, derivatives, alternative investments like real estate, commodities, distressed asset investing, portfolio management, a lot of topics that I didn't have exposure to neither at university nor at my job. So the knowledge that I was gaining, even just in level 1, really made me more well-rounded and was then better able to understand what other people were doing at my bank and also, across the financial community. The other reason, which I think a lot of you all already can kind of figure out, is that this credential is something that's very valuable. It's those 3 letters CFA by your name, really can open doors for you or new opportunities for you all, not just in the short term, but over a long career. For me personally, having done the CFA program, it led to new opportunities that I wouldn't have expected when I was sitting for these exams. Just being here, talking to you all tonight, working here at FK Partners, where I've worked now for more than 10 years. That one right there is something that wouldn't have come up, wouldn't have been a possibility for me had I not done the CFA program. Because I already had the CFA charter, I was somebody that was maybe interesting to bring on board back now 11 years ago. And, an opportunity that I surely wasn't even thinking about when I moved to Brazil when I was still working in equity research. But getting into financial education and ultimately creating a new career path was really possible because I had done the CFA program. So it is a credential that you can have with you for, again, 10, 20, 30 years, depending on how old you are and how long your career will last. And it can open up a lot of opportunities along the way. When I talk to candidates that are considering doing the program, a lot of times they think about the short term and how maybe passing level 1 could help them get a promotion or a new job or get into a different area at the company in which they work. That's surely possible. Again, if you get through level 2, level 3, and become a CFA charter holder, these opportunities can arise quickly in the next 2 or 3 years. But I would consider you all taking a longer view on this and thinking about how this can impact you over 20, 30-year career. That's something that I've come to realize over my time here, living in Brazil, but even prior to that, when I was still living in New York and working in financial markets. So anyway, the credential is something that will be with you for a long time, and it's something that's globally recognized. So if you ever did consider moving to another country, working outside of Brazil and in the US, Europe, Asia, somewhere where there are maybe larger financial markets and potentially more opportunities, this is something that will travel with you. It's something that's very well recognized throughout the world. So getting some questions in here. Hobson's asked a question about the knowledge that you learn in CFP and CNPI. Is that enough to pass the level 1? CNPI is a little bit more related to it as opposed to CFP. CFP, no. Hobson, really no. CNPI has some overlap, but it's not enough. You would still have to study for the CFA exam. The CFA curriculum, even just in level 1, is definitely much more extensive than what you'll see in CNPI, what they call the Conteúdo Global exam for the CNPI. That one, again, has overlap, but it's not as robust as what you'd see on the CFA Level 1 program. Now, as I mentioned when we were talking earlier about my own career, the types of professionals that do pursue the CFA program tend to work in the financial markets. A lot of them are research analysts, whether it's an equity research analyst like I used to be, could be fixed income research, even strategists that work in these banks. And then on the buy side, the portfolio managers and the analysts that run the mutual funds, hedge funds, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, insurance funds, et cetera. So buy side and sell side positions in research and in portfolio management. That's where you tend to find a lot of individuals that seek out and ultimately become CFA charter holders. But there are some other ones up there. You can see C-level executives. This could be a great program to get into if you wanted to become a CFO someday and work in corporate finance and in advance at a, let's say, even a non-financial institution. If you wanted to work, in the finance area of a company, this can open up opportunities for you all. Consulting, type of consulting we're talking about, obviously here would involve finance. The big four, have that corporate finance and advisory work. Even some of the strategy consulting companies get into this stuff, but that's kind of what we're talking about here. Risk managers have become increasingly more important since the financial crisis back in 2008, 2009. Banks and other institutions have hired more well-seasoned professionals into the risk area because of all of that had happened, a few years or more than 10 years ago. So having that credential can be an opportunity for you all if you're working in risk or you'd like to work in that area. But there's other jobs up here other jobs in which CFA charter holders will you'll find CFA charter holders, and this is not a complete list. Investor relations professionals, to give you another one. Those people need to deal with the buy side and the sell side every day. They're talking to investors, they're talking to analysts, and if they have the knowledge that the CFA curriculum will provide them, they're going to just simply be better at their jobs and be able to provide more meaningful advice and have more in-depth conversations with analysts and with investors. So a lot of different types of professionals can seek this out. So don't think it's only financial markets people. It can include others as well that work in companies in the finance areas. Now, the CFA program is designed by people that have actually gone through and achieved the CFA charter. There's a committee that develops the program and maintains it and updates it. I think that's important to know. People that are deciding what you need to study and what ultimately determines whether or not you pass and become a charter holder did go through this. They were candidates at one point. Another thing that's worth noting is that the curriculum does change. It gets updated. They try to keep it current. They don't make radical changes from one year to the next, but they do update it. There's material in there about big data. There's material in there in the portfolio management about high frequency trading. Some of the topics that we hear about in the news these days are on the curriculum now. I'm just giving a couple examples, but these were not on the curriculum, just a couple of years ago. So these are things that the CFA Institute will add because it's relevant to the financial market. So they try to keep the material relevant to, what good professionals, analysts would need to know to have success in their jobs. As I mentioned, the exams, the three of them build upon each other. They follow a sequence. Level 1 is the building blocks level, that knowledge level. Level 2 gets deeper into the analysis. Level 3 is kind of the synthesis or pulling it all together level, where you have a lot of topics on portfolio management. You can see at the bottom there the different topic categories, but on the next slide, or a couple slides later, I'll come back to what I skipped. You have a table here that shows the topics. And at the top there, you have ethics. Ethics is different than the others. It's on all three exams, and it's not easy. They make the material in the ethics part of the curriculum as real world as possible. The questions are examples of things that could happen. There's usually a client. There's portfolio manager or a research analyst, maybe a colleague that's doing something wrong, different things that can arise, and you're going to basically have to apply the code and the different standards of ethical conduct to be able to answer these questions properly. It takes a lot of practice. It takes some getting used to. Again, it's different than the other topics, and it doesn't go away. It's on all three levels, and you really need to do reasonably well on it to be able to pass and become a CFA charter holder. Now, the next four, quant, economics, financial reporting, corporate finance, these are what they call the investment tools. And you can see they're pretty important in level one in terms of weighting. Financial reporting and analysis, the accounting material, that's the most heavily weighted part of the test, except for ethics. They're tied as the #1 weighted part of the exam. And they're still weighted, that topic area is still weighted pretty heavily in level 2. When you go on below that, equity, fixed income, derivatives, and alternative investments, now you're into the asset classes. Fixed income and the equity material, they get more play, as you can imagine. Derivatives and alternatives a little bit less, but they're there across all three levels. And then at the bottom, you can see portfolio management. Not a big topic area in level 1. You're introduced to the kind of basics on portfolio management there. Then it gets a little bit more involved in level 2, but by level 3, the exam is very focused on it. And even the other topics, like equities, fixed income, the actual title of the level 3 equity is equity portfolio management, fixed income portfolio management, alternative investments for portfolio managers. So really everything in level 3 touches on portfolio management. So level 1, again, is a base or building blocks level. Level 2 gets deeper into what you studied in level 1. Level 3 goes and pulls it together from the eyes of a portfolio manager. And when you think about portfolio management, you get curriculum material on both individual portfolio management, which they call private wealth management, and institutional portfolio management. If you were running a fund at a pension fund or a hedge fund or endowment fund or a foundation or even a sovereign wealth fund, this is the material that's being covered by the time you get to level 3. So institutional portfolio management as well as individual portfolio management, both are covered extensively through the curriculum. Now I skipped a couple things that are worth noting. Now you can see the topics. There's 10 of them. Ethics being one that's a bit different. Then you have your investment tools, your asset classes, and portfolio management. Now the topics are divided into study sessions. And then the study sessions are divided up across readings. And then inside the readings, you have what are called LOSs, or learning outcome statements. There's, as you can see here for level 1 in 2020, 57 readings, and then 520 learning outcome statements within those readings. So there's 10 topics, 19 study sessions, 57 readings, and 520 learning outcome statements. So what do we need to take away from this? So they're dividing up the topics into subcategories, which we call study sessions. Then further inside the study sessions, there's usually several readings per study session. And then when you're reading, you have to make sure that you're focused on these learning outcome statements, because that's what the CFA Institute uses to formulate the test questions. Now, as we'll see in a moment, for the 2020 edition of the exam, the level 1 test has 240 questions, but there are 520 learning outcome statements. So there's a lot of material that you're going to need to study, and not everything will fall onto the test, even though you got to study everything. We don't try to predict what's not on there or what will be on there. You just got to be ready. But the learning outcome statements are what you need to focus on as you read through. And to give you some context as to what these are, let me read for you all a series of learning outcome statements across the fixed income topic area. So as we mentioned, level 1 is that building blocks level or knowledge level. And an example of a learning outcome statement in the fixed income topic for level 1 would be identify the relationship among a bond's coupon rate, the yield required by maturity, the bond's price level and bond's price level relative to par value, and from that, you're going to be able to determine whether it's a discount bond, premium bond, or par value bond. That's basically fixed income 101. It's pricing a bond. Level 2 is this application example. And you can see there, it gets into mortgage-backed securities and whether or not they're under or overvalued using an option-adjusted spread analysis. And then level 3 is that synthesis example or portfolio manager example, where you're looking at arguments for bond indexing and active bond investing and trying to make a recommendation on an investment strategy given a client's objectives and beliefs. So indexing would be more of a passive approach compared to an active approach where you're choosing different bonds. And anyway, you got to get all, you got to, when you get to level 3, you get to that level of understanding. But you build to it across the level 1 and level 2 curriculums. So these are, again, examples of learning outcome statements. They're going to be embedded in the readings. You need to make sure that you're focused on them. These are the objectives that you need to take or learn from, as you go. And the questions are going to be based on these. So now, a little bit more about level 1. Level 1 is a multiple choice test, and you have 3 possible answer choices, A, B, or C. The exam is divided across 2 sessions, a morning session and an afternoon session. Each are 3 hours or 180 minutes. There's 120 questions per session, 240 total. So it's 1.5 minutes per question if you divided it, exactly that way. It's not really how you would manage the time on the real test. You would probably try to get through the exam in about 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 20 minutes, and then use the next 30 to 40 minutes to review and fill in questions that maybe you skipped over, check your work, things like that. We teach you exam strategies such as those, in the course. But basically, it's a long day. You'd get there early, probably around 8 o'clock, get yourself situated. Exam morning session would start at 9 o'clock, goes until 12 o'clock at the lunch hour. You have a 2-hour break, but again, it's not quite 2 hours because you got to get back early to get ready for the afternoon session. That starts at 2 o'clock, and then it ends at 5 o'clock. So again, long day. That's the format right now in, through 2020. It's going to change a bit for level 1. Levels 2 and 3 will remain this way for a while. Levels 2 and 3 are, level 2 has multiple choice questions, but they're in a different type of format. They're called item sets, where you have a set of information and a grouping of questions that are interlinked. Level 1 questions are not interlinked. The questions are standalone. So if you were to get a question incorrect, the next question's going to be something different. So it's going to be on the same topic because they do group the questions by topic area, but they're not linked together. So if you got, again, a question wrong, the question immediately following it is going to give you another set of information, and it's going to test you on something different. So just be aware of that. Levels 2 and 3 are interlinked questions, sets of questions where you have more information that you need to digest to be able to answer those questions. Level 3 even has a written part and the morning session of it. We won't get into that detail tonight about levels 2 and 3. But level 1, multiple choice test, and questions standalone, organized by category. In the morning and afternoon sessions, you'll cover every category or every topic area. In fact, when you were looking at the table a moment ago that showed the weightings of the topics on the exam, like financial reporting being 15%, you could take that 15% and multiply it times 240, and you know that there's 36 questions on financial reporting on the level 1 exam. That also means that 18 of the 36 would be in the morning and then another 18 in the afternoon. And you can do that across every topic. You know how many questions you're getting, and it'll be an equal amount across both morning and afternoon. The exam will change a bit in 2021 when it goes computer-based. When it is computer-based, it'll actually be the time and number of questions will be reduced. Time per question will remain constant. The questions will continue to be multiple choice with 3 possible answer choices. But instead of a 6-hour exam, it'll be a 4.5-hour exam. 2 hours and 15 minutes, break, 2 hours and 15 minutes. So they'll cut down by 25% the number of questions. So instead of 240, it'll be 180 questions, 90, and then another 90. So that's going to be a little different. The content's the same. What you have to study will be the same. In fact, they're not going to change the curriculum at all, from 2020 to 2021, because of all that's happened with postponement of the exam and things like that. So anyway, that's not necessarily what we have to talk about tonight, but I think some of you all might be thinking not to do this exam now, but maybe next year. So it'll be offered 4 times a year. It'll be in windows, meaning that it won't be on a specific day, but you'll have basically a week to do it. The first window is at the end of February. I believe it's February 23rd through March 1st. And then there'll be a window in May, August, November. Those will be your 4 windows: February, May, August, November. So 4 times a year it's being offered starting next year. And you can already sign up for it as a candidate for the February exam of 2021, the first computer-based test. So you can either sign up for the December test, which would be the final paper-based version, or the February 2021, the first computer-based version. Hobson has a question in here about our course. Is it only in English? No, it's mostly in Portuguese. The material's in English, Hobson. We use the Kaplan-Schweizer material in the course. We give the students slide presentations and some questions for practice. Encourage them, to take our discounted pricing and purchase Kaplan-Schweizer material packages so they can read the material and study, the books and the question banks and the practice exams and all. So obviously all that's in English, as the test is in English. But our teachers, primarily being Brazilian, will teach in Portuguese. I teach a few classes, so I stay with English, but most of them are Brazilians and they teach in Portuguese, even though the material's in English. So again, that's, we do it with a team. We've had a group of teachers that have been with us for a long time, some more than 10 years, and been teaching group after group of CFA candidates for many years now. We also have some teachers that were former students that over the last few years have decided, after going through the 3 levels, that they wanted to stay involved with us and become teachers on our team, which is great to see, and it's always exciting to continue that relationship with the student that becomes a teacher. And that's something that maybe someday some of you all listening tonight could become. So it's a teaching team, and again, most of them being Brazilian will teach in Portuguese. So they specialize in their areas. Guys that work in derivatives tend to teach derivatives classes. Fixed income guys teach the fixed income. Equity guys teach equity, things like that. So got some more questions about English, more English. I think advanced English is enough, Kyle. Kyle's asking about the level of English that you would need to be able to pass the exams. I think advanced English would be enough, but what I would encourage you to do would be to maybe go onto the CFA website. They have some sample material. We could even help you out maybe with watching one of our classes, or actually the classes, again, mostly in Portuguese, that wouldn't really help. But we could figure out a way to try to help you understand if you have the level of English needed to be able to participate and be able to prepare properly for the exam. I think advanced English, I don't think you need to be fluent. You don't have to talk to anybody in English. You need to be able to understand it. You have to read well and comprehend in English, and to some degree listening in English. As I mentioned, I'll do some teaching, but a lot of the teaching is done in Portuguese. But we also encourage our students to buy the material packages from Kaplan-Schweizer, which have video lectures that are in English, as their teachers are all native English speakers. Marcos has a question about when our course will actually start for the February 2021 exam. That'll start on September 8th, I believe, right after the September 7th holiday, the second week of September. We begin the course for the February exam. So we're going to do the content classes, September, October, November, into the first week or 2 of December. We're going to pause and then we're going to come back in middle of January and do exercise classes, practice question classes from mid-January to kind of early to mid-February. We're going to have a practice exam, and then the test window begins. It's either February 22nd or 23rd. I think it's the February 23rd, but it starts in September, Marcos. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple more things here. Keep the questions coming, everybody. But in order to be successful on these exams, you're going to need to commit yourself to doing a lot of study. If you look in and this is public information from the CFA's website, you're going to need to probably plan for about 300 hours of studying per level. 300 hours per level. So there's a question in there even about that, but I was getting to that. So you'll need, outside of our class time, which again, the class is like, if you were to add up all the hours in our level 1 course, it's over 100 hours. But not counting that, you would need to spend 300 hours to study, reading, reviewing, practicing questions, practicing exams. We have a study plan that we provide our students. But 300 hours means probably 12, 15 a week, and then more in the final couple of months, 20, 25 hours a week, the final one to 2 months. So it's a lot of work. But you can see for all the levels, candidates that is, have provided this feedback where they're spending, more than 300 hours. It gets actually more each level in terms of how many hours they said they spent. So as the exams get more difficult, but they, encourage you all to probably put in to your own programming about 300 hours of prep time. So there are a couple other things here about candidate feedback. Candidates do believe, it's a hard test, as you probably realize, but candidates do believe it's a fair test. If you look here, candidates are replying to these feedback questions saying that the questions are written clearly. They test topics that are relevant for people in finance. They are based on the learning outcome statements. Remember, we said that a minute ago, that the learning outcome statements are how the CFA Institute formulates the test questions. They tell you that they're going to make the questions off of the learning outcome statements, and then they actually do it per over 90% of the replies here. So the point is, it's a hard test, but it's fair. If you do what you're supposed to do, if you study hard, you have a good chance of passing. I think, maybe all of us have had experiences in the past in university or other places where we've taken exams that we thought were unfair. Not because they were hard or easy, just because we were told to study something and then the test was different than what we were preparing for. So that's not the case here. The CFA Institute does a really good job of telling you what to study and then testing you on exactly that. So be aware of that. A lot of work ahead, but if you do put the work in, you have a good chance of making it through. So Kyle had a question up there that I didn't answer yet. Will the live be recorded to watch later if I miss any classes? Yes, the live course, yes. So all our classes right now are live online because of what's going on. Sometimes we obviously normally would also, in addition to having live online classes, have classes at our office in São Paulo, but that's not happening now, maybe next year. But the live online classes are recorded and remain available, the recordings that is, remain available for the candidates to be able to watch up through the exam date. So if you were to take our course in this year to take the December test, basically 2 business days after the class, because there's a little editing time, the recording of that class becomes available on the student platform and it stays there until after the test. So that's very important. It's actually one of the benefits of doing an online course, in that if you did miss a class or just simply wanted to rewatch a class that you did participate in, you can, because it was recorded and it's available. Good question. Another question here. How long does it take on average for people to pass these exams? Depends. I don't know if I can say an actual average. Probably, you've written in there, 6 years could be. I don't think it takes an average 6 years, but probably more than 3. It's not so common for people to pass 1, 2, and 3 all at all without failing one along the way. So probably 4.5, I guess. But I'm kind of guessing. Level 1 you can pass if you put the hard work in. Levels 2 and 3, even good students sometimes won't pass on the first try. A lot do, but some don't because they're clearly more difficult than level 1. So it's something that you just have to work through. Good question here from Cardozo. Can someone who knows a little about finances be prepared for the CFA exam with the preparation course? Not just with the yes, but not just with the preparation course. You also have to put in that hard work. Remember, we said 300 hours of study time is, approximately how much you need to pass each of the 3 levels. And that does not count our class time. So reading, question review, practice exams, you put in the hard work, you start early enough, 4, 5, 6 months before you can do it. And to give examples, I have a friend who's was a lawyer. I guess you never stop being a lawyer. A lawyer friend who now works in private equity that didn't have this content at all in school. He didn't do business administration nor economics. He was in law school, but he did level 1 and he passed. Did level 2 and he passed, and he is now a candidate for level 3. And he again just put in the hard work. And he did level 1 before he became a finance guy, still a lawyer at the time. And I'm giving only one example, but I've met many over the years. I've been doing this more than 10 years now that are not with a finance background or a business administration background or an economics background. That helps. I mean, business administration is going to help. You're going to have seen a little accounting, some valuation stuff, probably economics, quant. You're going to see, seen things that, your engineering lawyer friends probably have not. But, from what I've seen in Brazil, you got a lot of people that go to good universities that are not business schools, like engineering students that want to work in the financial markets, and some of those end up doing the CFA, and they do it. They might be good at quant, but that's only one of 10 topics on the exam, and they study hard and they figure it out. So if you work hard enough, you can do it even if you don't have the background. Got a question in there about our course. How many days do we meet during the week? Kind of depends on the start date. So we had a course that began for this December test back at the beginning of June, about 1 month ago. Those guys are meeting usually only once per week, sometimes twice a week, but usually just once per week because it's more spread out. The course that's going to begin at the end of July is a little bit more condensed. So it's going to be August, September, October, November. So those students will meet twice a week, most weeks. So to answer your question, a lot of times it's twice a week. Sometimes if you start early, it could be, once a week or twice a week, depending on, how long the course goes on. But they all have the same number of hours, number of meetings. The other questions in here. The question's tricky. Do I need to know how the examiner places the questions? All right, so a couple of different questions in here. So we have a question about, how the questions are written. Are they tricky? They're pretty straightforward. They're not easy, but they're not tricky in a unfair way. They're hard, or they're not all of them. Some are pretty basic. Others are intermediate. Others are hard, but they're not tricky in a bad way. They're making sure you know the material. So if you learn it and you practice enough, and I've mentioned a couple times tonight that the Kaplan-Schweizer material that we use got a lot of practice questions and tests that are really helpful because they're very similar to the test questions. The CFA Institute itself, has questions that you can practice as a candidate. You get if you put in the work, a good sense of what the questions are going to be like. So they're fairly written. let me see here now. Chat's getting filled with questions, so I think I missed one. But the digital test content will be different for the paper. Mariana's asking how the digital test or computer-based test will differ from the paper-based one. The content that you actually have to study is not going to change at all. The CFA Institute had planned to make some minor changes for 2021, but they froze it because of the coronavirus issues, and they had to cancel June and postpone everybody to December, or in the case of level 1 candidates, they gave them a choice, December or February. So they didn't want to change the curriculum on them. So basically the curriculum is the same. What you study is the same. The way they're going to test it, it's going to be on the computer, but they're multiple choice questions that are with 3 possible answer choices. So the format is kind of basically the same. There could be a little bit of different weightings. The weightings that I showed you, when they do publish for 2021, will have little ranges because they now will need to use a question bank to be able to formulate the questions when you actually take the test, because you're going to have a window to take the test at test centers, and not everybody's going to take it on the same day. So they can't have exactly the same test for each candidate. So they have to make a big question bank, and then questions get pulled into the test kind of randomly, but with some criteria as to how many per topic. So anyway, that's kind of a long answer, but basically, it's the same content and the same type of question. The next question here that I have: how relevant is CFA for someone working on a global corporate finance business partner? What's the pros and cons between CFA and the MBA? Okay, apart from cost. So, all right, let me try to get all that. So let me start with CFA versus MBA. CFA, as we saw before in our little presentation, is geared more towards finance people, financial markets, surely, but not only. You can, in a company, be working in the finance area, maybe on a track to becoming a CFO one day, and get a lot of benefit out of doing the CFA program. So that might answer your question about working in corporate finance or in a business as opposed to a financial markets guy. It can benefit you a lot. The CFA program can benefit you a lot. If you're in the finance area of the business, if you work in marketing, or operations, maybe not as much, but if you're in the finance area, becoming a CFO someday, it can benefit you a lot. And obviously financial market people would benefit. Now, in terms of the MBA versus the CFA, the MBA, everybody, is a general business degree. It's a general degree. It's going to have classes on finance and accounting, like we see in the CFA curriculum, but it's going to cover marketing and strategy, talking about the MBA. It's going to cover entrepreneurship, depending on what you want to focus on in your MBA, among other things. You can kind of make your MBA your MBA, in terms of how you choose electives and things like that. But the MBA is a general degree. So you're going to find people in your MBA program that want to work in finance, but also others that want to work at a tech company, others that want to work in marketing, others that want to start their own business. A lot of variety in an MBA, and you'll get exposure to all that stuff, but you won't go as deep in finance as the CFA program would. But there's a lot of MBA programs that partner with the CFA Institute. They have a university program, and a lot of times people will do even level 1, or they'll design their curriculum around level 1, but they're not going to cover everything across all 3 levels in an MBA. Maybe in a Master's of Finance, you'd get more into that, but not in an MBA. MBA is, going to give you the opportunity to work across a lot of different areas in business, whereas the CFA exam can open up doors across a lot of different areas in finance, whether it's markets or corporate finance at companies. So it's a bit more specialized, I guess, would be the way to summarize that. And a lot cheaper, but you already noted that in the question there. Is there a time limit for doing the tests after passing an earlier level? No, there's not. You can take 10 years between levels and come back to it and eventually get it through it. They have no time limit. That's not advisable. You should try to knock them out as fast as possible. because they build on each other, and the knowledge that you're learning in level 1 will definitely help you in level 2. In fact, the guys that do level 1 in December and then go right into level 2 in June of the next year, well, it's burdensome. They're studying most of 11 of 12 months in a row with that 1 month window, or a little more than a month window, close to 2 months, when they're waiting for the result. But but they do remember a lot, and it helps them. So anyway, the point is, you can wait as long as you want between levels, but it wouldn't be advisable. You'd want to go as fast, you want to do one and then the next and the next, just get it done. That would be ideal. Figure it out. Figure out how you can, fit the studying into your schedule. I will say this, I don't know how old people are, that are watching here tonight. When I did these exams, I was younger, I was single, life was simpler. I worked a lot, but I didn't have much else going on. So I would say, the younger you are, the better it is to do these. I couldn't imagine doing it now. I have a wife and 2 little kids. So it would be a lot harder to find the time to study, as you get a little bit older. I don't want to discourage anybody tonight. I don't know who we're broadcasting to, but I'm assuming a lot of you all probably watching are a bit younger than me, starting your careers or early years of a career. I encourage you all, if you're thinking about doing it, to jump on in, because it's just going to get more difficult to manage work and life and things, and then studying if you wait. So let's see. A lot of questions. This is good. Let's see what else we have here. So the time that it takes to get the results after taking the test, does it change between the computer-based and the paper-based levels? Well, I'm not sure, because they haven't done a computer-based testing yet, but I don't think it's not going to make a difference in terms of the cycle that you'd be on. So just to give some context, if you, whoever's listening tonight, wanted to be a CFA charter holder as fast as possible, and you haven't started yet, then the fastest path would be to take level 1 in December of this year. Level 2 in June of 2021, and then level 3 in June of 2022. And you could be done in 2022. If you didn't do December and you waited to 2021, then if you do it in February, you will not be able to take the test for level 2 in June, because you won't get your result until after the sign-up date for the test in June. So then the next opportunity is in May. So then that result, we still stay with kind of normally how long it takes, which is about 6 or 7 weeks, 8 weeks. Then, end of May, you get your test result at the end of July. So you have plenty of time, almost a year to study for level 2. If you took it in August and you got a result, October, you still have, 9 months to study for level 2. If you took it in November and you got your result in January, you still can, over 4 or 5 months study for level 2. So basically, you can't speed it up by taking the test early in the year and then being able to take a level 2 later in the same year. So kind of going through that timeline, if you wanted to already be in level 2 next year, you have to take the December test this year. If not, then you can take the test anytime next year, but you're not taking level 2 until the following year. The other thing that's worth noting there in terms of timeline on the level 1 test, you cannot take February and then May, or May and then August, or August and then November. You have the way that they've set it up is the result will not come out in time for you to be able to sign up for the next available level. So there's always going to need to be a 6-month gap between your level 1 attempts. Basically meaning you can only take level 1 twice and try it twice a year, just like now. Now it's June or December, but next year it could be February, August, or May, November, or February, November, but it can't be February, May. So there's got to be a cycle in between your 2 attempts. Hopefully you don't need a second attempt for level 1. All right, what else do we have here? So checking what's the difference between the Koch's, the FK partners, the CFA levels. Fernando's asking a question about the material packages. I'm going to come back to that one, all right? I'm going to talk about the Kaplan-Schweizer material packages in our course at the end. I'll keep going with questions right now that are relevant to just the program, things like that. But I'll get into some of those specifics before we finish tonight. Is it useful for compliance professionals? I think it is. Somebody's asking here about, if you work in the compliance area at a bank, imagine if you had the CFA charter and you worked in compliance. I think that would be awesome. Really would. I mean, you're going to be dealing with the portfolio managers over in the asset management area. You're going to be dealing with, the brokerage side, depending on where you work. It's a big bank and they've got everything. Your knowledge of what's going on across those different departments and what those professionals do with day in and day out would be, I think, really valuable if you worked in that area. I tried to convince a friend here that works in compliance to do these exams. I wasn't successful a few years ago, but I'll try again. So yes, I think you should do it if you work in compliance. And you never know where you're going to be in 5-10 years. That's the other thing I wanted to get across, and I mentioned it at the beginning. Don't think about, I'm here today in this area. Yes, think about that, but don't only think about that. Think about, where you're going to, think about that, over a 10, 20, 30-year career, what could happen, where you could go, and how this could help you have new opportunities, different opportunities over that long period of time. So think long term. Take that long view in terms of how this could help you. All right. So in terms of how our course works, there's another question about the course and the material. So what we provide, we have a course, classes. Some are, the first 3/4 of them are based on covering the content of the exam. The last quarter of them are exercise classes to do practice with the students, and practice exam at the end, student support throughout. And we give you material to be able to accompany the classes, slides and questions that will be used in the classes. What you also can buy, and most do, would be a Kaplan-Schweizer material package. And we provide different types of packages. Actually, the Kaplan-Schweizer packages that you could even see on their website, we have all of that, but we provide discounted pricing on that material. And the discount that we give our students is actually significantly more than just the normal discount that we give anybody that would just want to buy it off our site. So we have some that self-study and just buy the material for a little bit better price, usually around 10% less than the price that you'd see on the Kaplan website. It's actually better now because we did an update for the currency. So if anybody's thinking about this, we haven't updated recently for the exchange rate. We will, but we still maintain a discount to where things are on the Kaplan site. So you could, if you just wanted to buy the material, buy anything that you could possibly find for a little bit better price. If you're a student, though, we offer you further discounted pricing on the packages. The package that we would recommend to our students is the essential package. The essential package includes the study notes, the 5 books of content. It includes 4 practice exams, 2 per book. It includes an online platform in which you have a question bank. Level 1's question bank has 3,700 questions, something like this. Tons of questions. There are these module quizzes, topic assessments. There's a whole bunch of other types of practice questions beyond just the QBank even. And then the exams can be done, for those that are looking 2021, they're going to make the exams all online on the platform because that's going to better replicate the actual. But that's this essential package is what we would recommend. It even has video lectures, like recorded little video summary lectures of key topics in the platform. So, and we recommend that because if you move up from essential to the premium, there you have these basically you have live classes, but from Kaplan teachers. So if you're going to do a course with us and you're going to get live classes anyway, we recommend the essential. But there is another level, the premium, where you can do the live online with the Kaplan teachers. And then there's even one beyond that, which would allow you to go to a live class in the US or some other city in the world with the Kaplan team. But people tend not to buy that unless they're abroad and just know us, from when they were living in Brazil. So essential is what we would recommend for our students. All right, what else do we have here? So what is your advice for who would want to start preparation right now, but we'll do February exam in the course that will start on September? So yeah, so Marcos, good question. If you're looking at February tests, you should actually start studying soon. Within this month of July, I would really recommend you get started right away, because basically when you get to the course, which will start in September, you should have already read surely the first topic, which would be quantitative methods. But we would encourage you before, based on the study plan, to have already read not just that topic, but also the next topic, economics. So we want our students to have read the material before they start the classes, and continue that way, meaning that they should read in advance of the classes every time. They should come prepared, having read the material already, and bring their doubts and things like that. But just to summarize, if anybody here listening tonight wants to take the test in February, you should start studying this month of July. You should get on it, because August, let's just say you started in August, the study. You'd have 5 months here this year and then 2 more next year. So, you basically have 7 months to do it. If you start at the end of July, you have 7 months to prepare. So, yeah, you should, or I guess 8 months, 7-8 months, depending on when you start in July. But if you haven't, studied for one of these, or you're a little unsure of your English, or you don't have the finance or business administration background, spending 7-8 months preparing is a good idea. You can go a little slower. It's going to probably take you a little bit longer to absorb some of the topics that you've never seen before. So good idea to get started soon. The sooner the better for anybody, but especially for those that haven't had some of this material in their university. All right. I got all the questions out of the chat here, but anybody that wants to continue to ask anything, please feel free. Let me show you some of the the info that you would need to be able to sign up. So to sign up for the exam, you need to register on the CFA Institute website. For those that are considering the test in December, you have until August 19th. You actually have until September, but the price gets much more expensive if you miss the deadline on August 19th. So make sure, if you're going to miss the deadline on August 19th, you should sign up for the February exam. Registration for that is already open. And if you sign up for this, this test in December, you have basically about 6-7 weeks to register. When you register for the first time, you pay a registration fee of $450, and then you pay an exam fee of $1,000. The exam fee will continue. So if you don't pass, you'd still pay that exam fee the next time. If you do pass, you'd pay it again for level 2. You just don't pay the initial registration fee. That's a one-time, and then each time you take an exam, you pay for that. Summing the two, you can see $1,450. I know this is getting expensive with the real, but again, think longer view, and it's a lot cheaper than an MBA. Okay, so even though and honestly, if you think about we've kind of gotten accustomed to a 4-to-1 exchange rate. Now we're at 5 plus. That it's for every 1,000, for every, considering this value here, you can kind of think about what that would be in incremental reais. So it's not that, it's a lot, but it's not crazy if you think kind of relative to what it was just a little while ago. It's already expensive. I guess that's what I'm saying. Already was expensive, but again, I think worth it if you think big picture. All right, so let's take a look at the couple other things here that we have for you all. To sign up for this test, you basically need to have graduated from university or be in the final year of finishing your university degree. That's all. You don't need to have done any business administration or economics or anything. As I mentioned already, people that do these tests, they come from different backgrounds. But in order to become a CFA charter holder, you need to pass, obviously, all of the 3 exams. And you need these 4 years of qualified work experience, basically working in something that's related to the investment profession. But a lot of things would be related. And it doesn't require that you work in the markets. You can work at companies, like we said, work as an entrepreneur and deal with some of the financial topics that an entrepreneur would need to deal with. So a lot of things would basically qualify for the work experience. If you're one of the few that starts right after university and passes all 3 exams, and you don't have 4 years because you haven't worked for 4 years, that's a good problem to have. That's something that you can resolve by just continuing to work a little bit more. So anyway, that's the hard part. I mean, passing the exams is the hard part. The work, you're going to have to work anyway, so you'll get there eventually with the work experience. The other things that you should be familiar with, you need a couple of references when you submit your application to actually become a charter holder. They'll ask for a supervisor that can attest to that work experience that you'll submit. A lot of times they'll also ask for a CFA charter holder. That a lot of times that's one of us, and FK will provide that reference for our students. It's always actually fun to do that because a lot of times they've been with us for 3 years and they pass these exams, and we feel a part of that. And to give them a reference to join the CFA Institute's a nice thing to be able to do. There's this professional conduct statement that they require you to submit and maintain updated each year. And then they force you to join the CFA Institute. So in addition to paying for those exams across the years, you also would need to continue to pay dues to maintain active status and be able to use the letters. That's $275 per year, $275 per year to be an active member of the CFA Institute. Hopefully companies would pay for that, but I know that's not always the case. But that's something you should be aware of as well. All right, so let's see, nothing new in the chat. I have a couple more things that I'll talk to you all about. As again, I've said a couple times tonight, the program is a series of exams. It's 3 exams. Level 1 is a filter. Level 1 really will determine who's serious and who's not. I say that because I really believe if you put in the hard work, you can do it. I know that some people might not have the English skills and might need to work on that prior to joining, but I don't think you need to be fluent either. If you have advanced English skills and can read in English and comprehend, you should be able to do it. But apart from English, just finance knowledge, the topics that are covered, you can learn them if you work hard. And those that do, they make it, they pass. But it is a filter, meaning that there are a lot of people that don't. And the pass rate actually for level 1 is lower than, it's the lowest of the 3. It's lower than level 2, it's lower than level 3, because it filters out who's serious and who's not. And another statistic that's probably worth mentioning is there are somewhere between 20 to 25% of the candidates that sign up for these exams. They don't show up. They don't even go. They pay all those dollars and they don't show up. And most of them are level 1 candidates because they didn't prepare. They just don't even bother to go. That's not what we want to happen to anybody that we work with here, but it's worth noting because it does filter out who's serious and who's not. But again, those that put in the hard work, that study for those 300 hours, that stick to a plan, do the work in the sequence that we suggest, where you read and then you practice and then you do exams and you review and all, they have a good chance. They have a good chance. So those that filter through and get up to the level 2 level, that's a tougher test. And sometimes people do get stuck and have to take it a second time. But if they make it through that one, they can make it through level 3. Level 3 is different. It's more focused on portfolio management, but it's probably just as hard. So focus and finish. If you can pass level 2, you can pass level 3, but you got to focus and finish. And that's really the key. So what we would suggest is, just as the CFA site says, 300 hours of studying. Start early. If you're 6 months out, which we're 5 months out to the December test. We're 5 months away. So you would probably need to be studying 15 plus hours per week now, and you would need to up that to 20 plus in October and November. For the February test, February 2021, where we're a little further out. So you could do 10 hours a week, 12 hours a week. Do that for July, August, even September. And then you start increasing to 15 plus. And then, it's always going to be just hardcore, the final month, final 2 months even. Certainly the final month, you're probably, 20 plus hours a week, because you're just basically finding any spare time that you can and putting it, into your preparation. So that's kind of the plan. So the key is, again, starting early, absorbing this material kind of gradually over some months so that you're not cramming it in at the end. And, it obviously can be a recipe for not passing. Studying ethics more than one time. It is the first study session. And it's something that, even though we put it at the end of the course, we recommend students trying to study earlier. They don't have to read it at the beginning, but they should study it fairly early in the preparation, fit it in, read it again, review it a second time when we actually go through it in the classes at the end of the course. You got to do a lot of question work here on ethics to be able to prepare properly for it. You can't just memorize. I don't think people can. I've never met anybody that can just memorize the standards of ethics. But that's not really what they want you to do anyway. They want you to apply it. So the questions are based on these scenarios, and the way to prepare is to practice those. You got to practice everything, though, and doing enough practice exams would be critical. So we recommend 5 or 6. A student of ours that does the course and buys the essential package would get 4 already in that essential package. Another one through FK, and to give you a practice exam for doing the course at the end of the course. And the CFA Institute gives you 3 of theirs, so you have 8. So doing 8 would be awesome, but 6 would be I think a good number to strive for. 1 a week the last 6 weeks would be a good plan. But you got to study regularly. And one of the things that I would advise you all to think about is, again, 300 hours, that's a lot of time. So you got to be disciplined. You got to find time to study during the week. You got to think about Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday, even if you want to take Friday off. But you got to find time during the week to study, because if you save it all for the weekends, you can get burnt out and quit, and just give up on it. So if you're not studying during the week, it gets much more difficult to find enough time during, the full 7 days of a week to be able to stick to a study plan. So how do you do that? Wake up early, put in an hour before work, do a little at the lunch break, do some at, in the evening, a mix of those things, but staying disciplined, figuring out a time that works for you. Maybe it's in the morning before you start your day. Maybe you're fresh enough at the end of the day to do the prep then. Maybe that's the only time that works, because you start early with your job. But you got to find what works for you, and you got to stay with it. And you got to study every day during the week. You got to, even if it's only an hour, put in the time. It adds up. And then, on the weekend, you're not just spending the whole day Saturday and the whole day Sunday. You can spend a block of time on the weekend, but you can also have a weekend. You can do other things. You got to be disciplined. You got to be careful. We're not going out now and going to bars, because of all that's happening. But, if that was the case, you would want to, just be careful and make sure that you, stay fresh and, aren't too tired the next day to be able to actually be productive and study. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't mean you can't have a social life and you can't see your friends and do things, go to the Shahosco and whatever. You just got to find, the time, blocks of time where you're doing a bit of both. And one of the ways to be able to do that would be to do enough during the week where you don't feel like you have to spend the whole weekend studying every weekend. So these are some of my tips. We will reiterate those if any of you all join us for one of the courses coming up. So as I mentioned, we're going to start one soon in end of the month, July 30th. The February one will start in September. And then we'll keep doing that. So there'll be a May test in 2021. So we'll do a course. We'll probably start into January or beginning of February. We don't have a schedule for that one yet, but we will. And then there'll be August and there'll be November next year. So we'll run courses for all of them. The February one, the one that's starting in September, will be online, live online, as is the course that's starting at the end of the month, for obvious reasons. We can go back to the office next year and do courses of, presential. We will, but we'll continue to offer live online, regardless if we do presential or not. I'm getting to the end. We got a little summary here about FK. We've been around for a long time. I said this, but we've worked with a lot of candidates over that time. We also, as I already have said a few times, have the partnership with Kaplan Schweizer and represent them here in Brazil and in other parts of South America, but we won't go into that tonight. But we're also part of what's called the Approved Prep Provider Program at the CFA Institute, where we basically applied for this years ago, and they checked our curriculum, they checked the way we did the courses, and approved us. So we stay current with curriculum changes. We get that information well in advance. We can ask them things about their plans, and it's good to be obviously associated with the CFA Institute. So for those that are participating tonight, we have a 10% off coupon that you can use to register for this exam or for this course that will prepare you for the December exam that starts at the end of July. And I guess there's a deadline to that. On July 10th, you can use this coupon that says CFA 10% FKP. By July 10th, you get this discount. It's applicable to our course. The material's a different scheme because we're basically reselling that. So we take the payment in advance and then then place your order and it gets shipped directly to your house. But the course is something that you can pay for on the credit card, and parcel it. It's basically up to 12 times, I believe, you can parcel it. So, but for any of our courses, whether it's CFA or anything else, we offer the ability to pay on the card and do it in installments. So that's it. I know you all asked a lot of questions during the presentation tonight, and I appreciate you doing that. There was a lot of things that I wanted to share with you all, and some that I maybe wouldn't have even remembered to share with you all, but was able to because of the questions that you sent through. So thank you for that. And if you have any new questions or other questions that you haven't asked, please feel free to now. I'll give you a moment. If Lucas could take a look for us and see if there's any questions in our chat. Okay, so nothing new came through. Again, a lot of questions are asked throughout. So I appreciate the participation tonight. Thank you all for joining us. If you have other questions or things that you would like to talk about, whether it's related to CFA or anything else that we help prepare you for, or a finance course, something different, please feel free to reach out to our team. They'll be happy to talk to you about what we offer and how we can help you all. The idea here is, again, to try to think about your careers and how the things that you can do now could benefit you for a long time to come. And this here, the CFA program, I think is the premier mark that you can have as a finance person by your name. And you got to earn it, though. It's hard work. But it's fun to see the students move through the program and make it through the levels. There's a lot of networking that happens in our courses. It's been really interesting to see, exciting to see, honestly, the friendships and professional relationships that that our students have made amongst each other. So that's something that we, you know, it was easier, to be very honest, when everybody was at our office and they would go back to the office the next year and see their colleagues from the prior year and see who passed, and level 3 continues. So it was definitely, I think, easier for people to stay in touch and stay connected when they would see each other physically at our office a couple times a week. But we are, you know, we're you know, we have WhatsApp groups, and there's ways that the students can interact amongst each other, even if they're doing a live online course. All right, so we got more questions. So discount on the essential package. Yeah, so all our discounts are around 10% of the retail price that Kaplan Schweizer offers on their site. Plus, you get to pay with a Brazilian credit card, and thus wouldn't incur additional fees for having to buy on a, you know, a foreign site, U.S. site, with the payments are in dollars. The essential package discount for a student, I don't have the percentage off of my, you know, top of my head, but it's, you know, it's definitely, it's significantly more than what the you know, more than 10% what the non-student gets, because basically we, you know, if you're going to do the course, you know, we don't really need to worry about making more money with you off of the material. So we kind of basically pass through pretty much cover our taxes and the shipping and give you the best price we can. So it's a pretty significant discount if you do the course and want to get the essential package, or any package for that matter, to help prepare. All right, another one from Hobson. So he's asking about different certifications: CFP, the Certified Financial Planner certification; CNPI, that's for analysts that will sign research reports; the CGA is the Portfolio Manager exam for INBIMA. CGA is the most similar to CFA. CGA was actually designed off of the level 1 curriculum and a little bit of level 3. So CGA is, you know, you do it in one test and it's not as deep as the CFA exam, but CGA would be the most closely linked there. There's overlap in CNPI, Contildo Global, and the CFA, but the CNPI is more narrow. So there's a little bit of overlap with financial statement analysis and the asset classes, but the CGA is the most similar. CFA is much more complete. CFA level 1 is going to be much more work to be able to be properly prepared for, but CGA is, I guess, similar. Yeah, so another question about discounts. So a lot of, yeah, so yeah, again, we provide discounted pricing on the material for our students, good discounts for packages of Kaplan Schweizer material, and discounts for anybody, not as good, but 10% discounts for anybody that buys just off the site but does not do a course. Yeah, so, and that applies also, everybody, to FRM or Kaya if you want to do one of the other international certifications. Those are the three: CFA, FRM, and Kaya for alternative investments. Those are the three that we partner with Kaplan Schweizer on and provide preparation courses for that are non-local certifications. So all the local ones like CGA, CFP, CNPI, we prepare students for. That's our own material, and we have our own platform, which students would access the material and prepare, as part of the course. For CFA, it's a little different because we work with Kaplan Schweizer in terms of the material that you would use to prepare. All right, so I think I've got all the questions in here. Does anybody have any other ones? Anything else, Lucas, before we finish up tonight? All right, I think we got all the questions. Again, thanks for asking them. Thanks for participating. If you do have other questions and want to contact us later, please feel free. Like I said, we're starting a level 1 course at the end of this month on July 30th for the December test. We're starting on September for the February 2021 test. And then there'll be courses all through next year for later test dates, including levels 2 and 3, which we would start at the end of January, beginning of February. We would actually have started earlier, but because levels 2 and 3 are going to happen now in December, when they normally would have happened in June, the results won't be out until the end of January. So we have to wait to start those courses until after the results come out. So anyway, we'll have lots of CFA prep courses all through this year and next year and beyond. I look forward to hopefully seeing you all in one of those courses in the near future. And if you have other questions about the CFA program or anything else that we do at FK, please get in contact with us. So thank you again for your participation tonight. I'm going to sign off now and hope to see you soon. Good night.